Hey, what's going on YouTube? Son of Sanguinius here, and today I'm here to talk about how I would like to see, or what I would like to see Blood Angels be or become in 8th edition. So in this video I'm going to go over a couple of things. Some things are going to be like some points changes, some things may be some updates or additions to some special rules, some things I would like to see us have access to, and a couple of changes that I would like to see happen to Blood Angels going from 7th edition to 8th edition. So without further ado, let's just dive right into it. So the first thing that sort of came to my mind is I would kind of like the points of Terminators and Vanguard Vets to be brought in line with regular Space Marines. Currently, our Terminators are still 200 points for a unit. I believe in the new Space Marine Codex it's been dropped down to 175. And Vanguard Vets, well, I think the base price is still the same. The cost of power weapons for us is still 15 points per power weapon, whereas in the Space Marine Codex it's only 5 points per power weapon for Vanguard Vets. So clearly we are still out of date. Angel's Blade did nothing to fix this, Exterminatus did nothing to fix this, and GW has not addressed this since. Hopefully they will address it in 8th edition, but we'll have to wait and see. So the next thing that sort of came up to mind is I would like to keep heavy flamers on our tactical squads. Personally, I have, I think, like 2 tactical squads that have heavy flamers on them, and it's you know, they're part of the box set. They're cool. I like them, and it would be a real dick move of GW to simply take that away from us. Not that I would put it past them, but hopefully we'll keep him. And frankly, I mean, I think that they would give that to Blood Angels if anything, but you know, I wouldn't be surprised if they said go fuck yourself. So anyway, moving on. I would like us to retain sort of fast or faster vehicles among the vehicles of our armory. So I know that movement values are going to make a comeback in 8th edition, so I don't know necessarily that we're going to have, you know, any kind of like unit types. I think those the whole idea of a unit type is going to be, you know, dead and buried in 8th edition, but perhaps for our vehicles we might move like an extra 2 inches during the movement phase or something like that. Curiously enough, we'll talk about this a little bit later, but with the Red Thirst, with the initiative step being, you know, almost not necessarily useless, but not as nearly as important as it used to be, since, you know, whoever charges first will attack first. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with the Red Thirst, because basically if they do nothing with the Red Thirst, then the Red Thirst is utterly meaningless. And I'm curious if part of that may be letting Blood Angels infantry move, like, you know, 1 extra inch. Probably not 2 extra inches, that'd be a little much, but, you know, like an extra inch or something like that. Who knows? But we can talk about the Red Thirst a little bit later. But going back to our vehicles, you know, we got the Lucifer overcharge engines, so things like Rhinos, Razorbacks, Land Raiders, Predators, Whirlwinds, Vindicators, that kind of stuff. Obviously, I don't think bikes, land speeders, or what's another? Yeah, I think it's just bikes and land speeders that don't have it, and the Storm Raven gunship I don't think has overcharged engines either. Although it's a flyer, so, you know, who cares? We'll talk about flyers a little bit later, but yeah. So faster or fast vehicles, you know, however they manage to do that, whether it's just, you know, increasing our movement value a little bit, I would like to see that make a return in 8th edition. So next, a little bit better Warlord traits, a little bit better relics. Our relics and Warlord traits in the Blood Angels Codex, they're not bad, but they're not outstanding. You know, there's nothing really there that would, you know, make me, you know, jump out of my seat in excitement. The most one that I find the most useful would be the Veritas Vitae, which gives your Warlord an extra strategic Warlord trait. But there are, obviously, in Angels Blade we have, the Death Company Warlord traits and the Death Company relics and that kind of things. Having that be ported over in some way or form in 8th edition would be great. Things from Exterminatus and Angel's Blade being, ported over into 8th, assuming that they're the good ones. I don't want no fucking Battle Demi Company in 8th edition. Please, GW, get rid of that or fix it, or don't waste your time with it. But whatever. It would be nice to have an updated relics list, updated warlord traits that are a little bit more powerful and that can distinguish us a little bit more on the tabletop. So next, that brings us to something I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, the Red Thirst. Now, seeing as how initiative is not going to matter so much in the assault anymore, except in subsequent rounds, but let's be honest here, the most damage in the assault is usually done by the first round of combat. I'm curious to see what they're going to do with it. An idea might be, they might give us some more attacks, so it might just simply be, we get, all of our models get, an extra attack or whatever on the charge. Okay, fine, whatever. Will it be something the equivalent of like Relentless, or the equivalent of Furious Charge, or maybe a combination of those? Furious Charge or some sort of equivalent is also something I'd like to see make a comeback. So the Red Thirst and the Furious Charge are currently our chapter tactic, quote unquote. Speaking of which, I feel like it'd be really, really, really great and in GW's best interest if they actually, wrote down in the, in the data slate or whatever, chapter tactics, Blood Angels, and then, said, had, the Red Thirst and, whatever listed underneath that. I feel like that'd be great because I'm so sick and tired of not being able to take, Contemptor Dreadnoughts, Cataphractii Terminators, Tartarus Terminators, that whole deal. It's really annoying, and it's really stupid considering we know that Blood Angels have those. We know that Blood Angels, don't have any reason not to have access to those. It's mainly just GW's laziness and not wanting to update their rules. So, the Red Thirst, Furious Charge, and maybe a chapter tactic. I feel like if it just said chapter tactics, Red Thirst or chapter tactics, Blood Angels, I feel like that'd be great. But moving on, now this is something that some of you may disagree with for various reasons. I, for one, don't think that this is out of the ordinary. And to make it clear, I'm not saying that we need like everything that vanilla Space Marines have, but what I would like to see more of, what I would like to see our armory expanded with, is more flyers, specifically the Storm Talon and the Stormhawk Interceptor. Now, my reasoning for this is quite simple. The Blood Angels are a Space Marine chapter that specializes in aerial assault and deep strike. And the only flyer that we have is the giant flying brick, the Storm Raven gunship, and it's a great gunship. There's no reason why we shouldn't have the Storm Talon and the Storm Hawk. The best argument that I can kind of see is, we're just not, that friendly with the Mechanicus or whatever, so that's why. I don't really buy that, especially since there are other Space Marine chapters listed within the Vanilla Codex that have, that also have strain relationships with the Mechanicus, such as, Black Templars, for example. But they can still take, Storm Talon, Stormhawk Interceptors, no problem. And in the book Mephiston by, I'm gonna have to get up and get it. Please excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. It is the book called Mephiston, Lord of Death by David Annandale, where the Blood Angels are described as having Storm Talon gunships, and it's quite upsetting that the even in some of the books, some of the fluff, Blood Angels do have Storm Talon gunships, but we don't on the tabletop, and so I find that to be quite upsetting, considering there's really no reason, as far as I can see, that we shouldn't have them. Moving on from that, this is kind of like in the same vein of things. Access to Tartaros, Cataphractii Terminators, and Contemptor Dreadnoughts. So when Angels of Death came out, I was all excited. I was like, oh, cool. I can finally take, Cataphractii Terminators and Contemptor Dreadnoughts. It's going to be great. Fortunately, I saw a little thing that said, chapter tactics or whatever, and it's like, well, shit. So, Tartaros, Terminators. I actually don't know if Blood Angels have that many suits. I know that Blood Angels have Cataphractii Terminators. Contemptor Dreadnoughts, I would probably imagine they have at least a couple. As would most first founding chapters. But again, it all comes down to, and frankly, it's not just Blood Angels on this point. Dark Angels and Space Wolves also, they've kind of been, GW's been shooting themselves in the foot by not updating their rules to meet the frankly justified demands of the player base in wanting to have access to the various types of Terminator armor, considering that they have different special rules. Now, will they have different special rules in the future? Who knows? They may not. I would imagine that the suits of Terminator armor may not, but the Contemptor Dreadnoughts probably would, have some sort of different rules for them in 8th edition, but having access to those as a Blood Angel player would be nice. So moving on from that, now we get into some slightly bigger stuff. I would like to see the good formations from Angel's Blade and Exterminatus ported over from in one form or another. I think in the Bell of Lost Souls article, the article mentioned that they wanted to reward people for playing thematic armies by giving them rerolls and army specific special rules, whatever. I can't imagine that taking a form different from a detachment or a formation. I really don't see it being all that different from it, because it would either be like an open-faced detachment or whatever, where the only units that you could bring in your army would have to be part of the same faction, or it would be a specific list of units that you bring, and then you get rerolls or special rules for that, which that would be more equivalent to a formation. So seeing some good things like that, from Angel's Blade, from Exterminatus, ported over, in one form or another, would be pretty cool. Assuming they do stick with the Decurion style thing, I don't know if they will in 8th edition. Since they want to try and simplify things, I wouldn't be surprised if they actually ditch the idea of that whole, detachment of formation thing. But assuming they keep it, I would like to see a better core formation for the Angel's Blade Strike Force, or whatever the hell they're going to call it in 8th edition, because the Battle Demi Company is absolute shit. And the Archangel's Demi Company is good, but way too damn expensive for playing games 2,000 points and under. So I would like to see a new, better core formation, that actually has a benefit, instead of just doing nothing and essentially being a 1,000-point tax that you have to take with your army. So, now this last one here is something that I've been thinking about, and I might have actually some steep resistance from this one. But maybe you guys agree with me, maybe you don't. But I would like to see Land Raiders and Storm Ravens of all types being available as dedicated transports to Tacticals, Assaults, and Devastator Marines. And my reasoning for this is because I think it's page 10 or something. It's the page in the 7th edition Blood Angels Codex under chapter organization, when they talk about how the chapter is organized and how they fight. There's a paragraph there that talks about how Blood Angels have enough Land Raiders to field them as line transports instead of elite. Elite, strike units. And I feel like, with that in mind, I feel like Assault Marines and Tactical Marines should be able to, at the very least, those two. Devastator Marines, not so much, because it doesn't necessarily make a whole lot of sense for their battlefield role, but Tactical Marines and Assault Marines, I feel, should have access to Land Raiders and Storm Ravens for dedicated transports. Land Raiders, because it's stated in the Codex that Blood Angels have enough of them to field them in that manner, and they do, as evidenced by the second and third War for Armageddon. And Storm Ravens, because let's be honest, they have 53 Storm Ravens last time I checked in their armory, and you're telling me that they can't spare a couple for flying some troops in. I don't know. That's just, my personal opinion. Matter of fact, it may not even matter so much because, depending on like how they do the General's Handbook with the 3 ways to play, it may not even matter. The whole idea of dedicated transports may not even be a thing in 8th edition, but we'll just have to wait and see. So, anyway, guys, that is my brief thoughts on what I would like to see Blood Angels have become and continue to be in 8th edition. I'm very curious to hear your guys' thoughts. Feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. Feel free to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video.